Say Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. God is great. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. God is great.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'd like to welcome you, dear viewers, to another in our series, The Best in Islam. In this episode, we'll be looking at the best of Islam, continuing from our previous episode, with two other statements from Prophet Muhammad, may God's peace and blessings be upon him. The first of which, he said, as narrated by Abu Huraira, خياركم في الجاهلية خياركم في الإسلام إذا فقهوا. The best of you in the time of ignorance will be the best of you in Islam if you become learned in the religion. This statement of the Prophet, may God's peace and blessing be upon him, gives credence or gives recognition to what precedes Islam, a person coming into Islam. That if there were good qualities which they had, which made them people of influence, people of wisdom, people of knowledge, etc., then the likelihood, after they accept Islam, they will also be great people in Islam. If they were great before, because Islam is not detached from life. What existed before the acceptance of Islam was life. What exists after is life. They're both interrelated. Only after Islam, life is now looked at from another pair of glasses. We have the Islamic view, but it's still life. So leadership, people who had leadership qualities before Islam, maybe they even got training, they got degrees, etc., qualifications, etc. When they enter into Islam, these degrees, these qualifications, this knowledge becomes applicable in Islam also. So we should never discount and feel simply because a person has converted to Islam, nothing before that is of any value. No. Sins that went before, they're not held accountable for, they're free from that. But in terms of their abilities, their skills, their behavior, all of the various characteristics and qualities which we hold of great value in human life, if they had these qualities before Islam, then Islam doesn't cancel them. There is a place for them within the parameter of Islam. However, they are modified, supported in different ways, etc. So those people who had good qualities, when we're giving da'wah, we're encouraging people to accept Islam, we should try to choose some of the people who are of influence, people with skills which the Ummah, Muslim community can benefit from. We should always try to include these people in our invitation. It may be more difficult because there are people who have position already, but we should not exclude them and only focus on the common people. And I'm not saying to focus on them and leave the common people either, but we have to recognize that if we find among them people who have an inclination, we should make great efforts to try to bring them over, because the Muslim community will benefit from them. Of course, people take this in a different light, in that they may give great support to people who are just stars. They were football players, basketball players, others who had fame because of skills they had which are not necessarily beneficial. So sometimes we misunderstand this principle of those who were great before Islam being great in Islam to apply to the stars. So when you hear about a movie star accepts Islam, people are, make a big thing about it and maybe put this person in a position where they're speaking on Islam. The people start asking them fatwas, and of course they may talk nonsense. No, this is not what is meant. The best of you before Islam, meaning good people, beneficial to society, people respected them because of that. When they become Muslims, those qualities should be supported and they should be encouraged to continue to play this role. So this is the concept, that the good before Islam has value in Islam. We don't cancel it, we don't ignore it. In fact, we should nurture it. And when the Prophet, may God's peace and blessing be upon him, when Muslims were in a particularly difficult period, he made dua asking Allah to strengthen Islam by some of the leading, young, strong figures. And Allah brought Hamza, he brought Umar ibn al-Khattab, to Islam. And that gave Muslims strength. So those who were great before Islam in their fields which are beneficial to society, we should encourage them, reach out to them to try to bring them also into Islam by providing them the necessary knowledge that they could make that choice. But the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ added the condition, if they become learned. If they become learned. Because a person might be, I remember there was a case of one individual, very famous individual, in the French context. He was a translator of the book Das Kapital, translation of, this is communist theory, socialist theory, translated into French, and he was a philosopher. He accepted Islam and was very much supporter of Islam, etc. But people put him in a position where he, after giving lectures, generally speaking about, before Islam and what Islam had done in his life and so on, so then, people started to ask him questions concerning tafsir of the Quran, interpretation. And because of his background of being a philosopher, a philosopher doesn't shy away from questions. So any question is asked, even if he doesn't have knowledge, he will speak. So he said things. And naturally, because he didn't have the knowledge, he's going to say things which were wrong. He made some big blunders. And people still continue to put him up on stage and ask him questions from fiqh, questions from, areas that he had no knowledge of, and he would speak. And so he just piled up and piled up till finally people just washed their hands of him because he had made so many crazy, outlandish statements. So those people who come over to Islam having these exceptional backgrounds, we should encourage them to learn Islam, to gain the knowledge of Islam so that their benefit will be substantial to the Muslim community. They can then use the skills and the experience, etc., that they have, use it effectively to benefit the community when they have the guidance of Islam along with it. So this is the point that we have to keep in mind, that people from the pre-Islamic time, where they accept Islam, we benefit, we should strive to benefit from what they have, but we should encourage them to gain knowledge of Islam so that they can now convey that information to us in a practical and useful way, a way which would be in keeping with the Islamic teachings and not at odds with Islamic teachings. So they become, individuals known for making unacceptable statements concerning Islam. We're going to take a break now, and we'll continue after the break to look at the last narration from the Prophet, may God's peace and blessing be upon him, regarding the best of Islam. So I'll see you after the break. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar.
Is better than 1,000 months. The benefits of worship and the vigil in the night of power.
Ramadan, which is the topic of the show. Do you have any advice for our viewers?
Asad Ahmad.
Especially in the blessed month of Ramadan.
The Ramadan is the reminder of rectifying our behavior.
Dr. Ali Shaban.
Ramadan is a unique opportunity for every Muslim.
And the reasons behind this revelation and its power emphasized as the human heart transcends towards godly glory.
If you apply Ramadan to the rest of the year,
Tariq Ali.
Surely you are going to be much, much better in all fields, all aspects.
And the gratitude of the soul reaches out to worship the Almighty One on this esteemed night.
Just to stick more and more of time to the Holy Quran.
Dr. Muhammad Ibrahim.
This is my advice to all my Muslim brothers.
Let's strive to seek the night of power and its bliss in Blessed Nights every Friday at 4:30 p.m. and repeat telecast at 3:30 a.m. India on Peace TV.
Where truth is hidden, misleading quotations create confusion. Where truth is hidden, lack of knowledge and wisdom cause upheaval and commotion. Where truth is hidden, manipulated scriptures and twisted facts emerge. This very hidden truth creates false propaganda, mayhem, chaos, disorder, and turmoil in our lives and the world order. But is there anyone with courage and wisdom? What is the truth, and who has the courage to expose it? Because it's your right to know the truth.
Watch Truth Prevail and Lies Perish in Truth Exposed by Dr. Zakir Naik, next on Peace TV.
Welcome back from the break. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Prior to the break, we were looking at those who were great before Islam, how they can also be great in Islam if they gain knowledge. Abdullah ibn Amr, he quoted the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ as saying, when he was asked, Ayyul Islami khair, which aspect of Islam is best? He said, تطعم الطعام وتقرأ السلام على من عرفت ومن لم تعرف. That you provide food and greet both those you know and those you do not know. Providing food meaning that you share your food with others. There are so many statements from the Prophet, may God's peace and blessing be upon him, in which he has stressed the importance of sharing food. That food for two should be good for four. Food for four should be good for eight. You know, never think that the amount of food you have is, well, I just made enough for two people. No, four people can share in that food. So Muslims were encouraged from the very beginning of Islam to share. And this became a quality of Muslims that you find all over the world. Muslims share their food. Living in the West, coming from the West, the attitude is quite different. If somebody is invited over to your house, you're having dinner, then you close those doors in which the dining room is, and then they sit in the living room, you go and you talk to them. You don't invite them to come and share your food with you. That's like, nobody does that. It's something strange. But Islamic way, and this is something I found, having become a Muslim myself and being amongst Muslims, this way of inviting people, And one of the things I should mention with regards to this habit of sharing food and sharing what you have, I remember during the time after the first Gulf War, when I was involved, I was head of a committee that was engaged in explaining Islam to the American troops before leaving the country. And among them, quite a number of them accepted Islam, about 3,000 plus. And I remember some of them talking about how they would be out on maneuvers with all their gear and everything, walking in the desert. And they would come across a Bedouin there with his tent. And he would call them over. They would come over, wondering what's going on. Is there something? I have to be careful. And, okay, there's nothing. It's the desert, there's nothing else there. Desert of Arabia. They would come and they'd sit down. You tell them, sit down. Then he would heat up tea and he would pass out tea to them. They're all geared up and, could hardly even find room to pick up the cup and drink it. And whatever he had, he would share with them, some bread, whatever, And of course, he has limited supplies, etc. He's living on the desert. But it struck them, how generous people were with what little they had. And I know a number of them who accepted Islam just simply because of that. That had touched them. It had moved them in such a way, Because, as I said, in Western society, people are very much, cut off, closed. Your neighbor, the idea of inviting over your neighbor, to share in food with you, it's not a common practice. It's rare. In some communities, maybe you do find it, but in general, no. I mean, you're living in an apartment building, maybe the people on your right and your left, you have never met them. Oftentimes, you even have people who are living alone in the apartment, they die in the apartment. Nobody knows until the smell comes out from under the door. Finally, they call the fire department. They come break in the door and they take away the man's body. People cut off this issue of sharing, because food, this is a basis for sharing with the community. You're building your relationships with the community. So this is something encouraged strongly in Islam, as the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ had said, to provide food for others, sharing it with others. And same thing, Eid al-Adha, when we slaughter the animal, giving thanks to Allah, we share that food with others all the time. The end of Ramadan, fasted the whole month of Ramadan, again, we share food, we encourage people, give them food. The idea of sharing all the time, we find that stressed in Islam. The other factor was to greet those you know and those who you don't know. Of course, the issue of greeting, constantly greeting, Assalamu alaikum, wa alaikum salam, this is an obligation in Islam. If somebody greets you, that you return that greeting. It's an obligation. So the idea of greeting is a strongly recommended principle. And this brings good feelings. If you're meeting people, you don't greet them, you just pass by, you ignore them, whatever. This is part of the coldness that tends to come in city life. People who live out in the farms, then where you're not in contact with that many people, when you see a person, naturally you're going to greet them, because you don't see people that often. And so people tend to be more friendly when you step outside of the cities. But inside of the city, you find people will not greet others, not know who their neighbors are, They don't encourage it. It's something not encouraged at all. And if you greet, people find it strange, you know, and so it's very uncomfortable. Whereas in Islam, whether you're in the city, whether you're in the country, people greet. We greet each other all the time. And it's even some Westerners I know have said to me, you know, listen, these people, they're greeting each other continually. The man just left the room, you know, he came into our office, he greeted, he stepped out, went somewhere else, he came back in, he greeted again. You know, every time he's greeting over and over. So this is culture. This is Islamic culture. That the continual greeting, because this greeting is what? Actually, when we say Salaam Alaikum, this is more than just saying hi. So every time you see the person, hi. Of course, if you said hi to the person in the morning, you know, you step out of the office, you come back in again, hi again. No, that's not appropriate. You don't say hi again, hello again. You already said hello one time. Finish. Whereas Salaam Alaikum is different. Salaam Alaikum is a dua. It is a prayer. You know, we're asking that Allah's peace be upon you. That you find peace in your life from God. So this is a good prayer, a good reminder, a good greeting. So from the Islamic perspective, we will do it frequently. And the Prophet ﷺ did say that, spread the greetings all around. Then the Prophet added in the end, not only just those who greet, but he said, those who greet the ones they know and the ones they don't know. Now, greeting people who you know, this is the common thing. Most people readily greet. But somebody you don't know, maybe you won't greet them. I mean, actually, I've seen circumstances where a person may come in and they will give greetings to 1, 2, 3, and then there are other people here and they don't give greetings to them. But this is really not from Islam. The proper Islamic way is you give greetings to those you know, and it's much greater in reward for you to give greetings to those you don't know. This is a very important point, because this helps to build love in the community. When you make a point of greeting those you don't know, knowing that the reward is far greater than just greeting those who you know. So Islam has a concern for societal bonds, that people should be in contact with others, sharing the good they have, greeting them regularly, you know. So it is a living community, not dead objects which collide with each other. No, we are living, interacting in a positive and a loving way, supporting each other. So the idea of not knowing your neighbor, of living 10, 15, 20 years without ever having even met your neighbor, it's something unthinkable in the Muslim world. And that's the way it should be. We all should know who our neighbors are, who work in the office with us, people who are friends of our families, our parents, all these people. We take time out to meet, to know, to greet all of these people. Because that is the bond which ties the community together. So when people have a need, we know that need. We can reach out and help them. We don't have to wait for them to come and beg us, ask us. We are there. And even our daily prayers, which are obligatory on men to pray in the mosque, or strongly recommended for them to pray in the mosque together, that is about also the bonds of the community of that mosque. That everybody knows, not only your neighbor, but everybody in that area who comes and prays together there, you know them. So when you see after prayer that the person is sitting, you know, then you go find out. Is everything okay? You're having problems, so and so. So this is the means of also building community bonds, linking people together, where we have a society where love is spread amongst the members of the society. And this is what Islam engenders and promotes. And this is what the Prophet, may God's peace and blessing be upon him, said when he responded to the question, what aspect of Islam is best? It was sharing our food with others, with as many others as we can. The poor, the rich, everybody, sharing our food. And greeting everyone, those who we know, as well as those who we don't know. With that, dear viewers, we'd like to thank you for being with us in the second segment of our episode from The Best in Islam. And we hope that you will continue to follow this series as it unfolds throughout the year. I now bid you farewell and hope to see you in the next episode. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Season comes Latina, season comes Angelo, season comes Latina, season comes Angelo.